The first video essay I ever made for this channel was a 20-minute history of the progression of 1.16 plus SSG speedruns. Ever since that video, there have been multiple new seeds discovered that have led to new world records, including one that features a complete overhaul of the set seed glitchless meta we're used to. All of these seeds are quite unique from one another and offer an interesting experience that showcases the progression of the category beautifully. But how do these seeds rank when stacked up against each other? I decided to speedrun each one of these seeds back to back until I got a satisfactory time so that I can give one last embrace to these worlds that will likely never get much love again. Without further ado, let's relive the history of my favorite category in the game. This is every 1.16 SSG seed ranked. Before we hop into the rankings, let's go over some things to save some time. Each of these seeds, with the exception of one, follows the same formula and route. The structure of the run stays consistent, but the environment and methods through which this formula is carried out varies greatly. So let's go over this formula. Since we kill the dragon with beds, the first goal is to get the minimum amount, 4, from a village. Next, we'll grab obsidian from the village blacksmiths as well as a ruined portal or bastion in the nether, and we'll enter, usually from a ruined portal. Since we travel 8 times as fast in the nether, we'll run as fast as we can to the end portal room coordinates and travel directly into a pre-lit portal. Finally, we'll pray for a 1 in 13 perch and one cycle the dragon. Now that we know how it works, let's begin. The first seed up is likely not what you were expecting, unless you were an OG who has been around since that first video. Many of you may expect me to start with the Dolphin seed, but it's actually this seed right here. Don't recognize it? That's because only one world record occurred with it back in October 2020. This was the first sub 3 Minecraft speedrun ever, and was completed by a Polish YouTuber named Tobias. This has got to be the most random person ever to get a Minecraft world record. Seriously, this guy is just a normal YouTuber with a kids demographic, but has an SSG record on his resume. He barely ran MCSR at all, as the only other thing he did was getting some respectable times in the early days of 1.16 RSG. Definitely one of the weirder careers I've seen for this game. This seed is strange. The overworld is by far the longest we will encounter in this ranking, and usually took me a little under a minute to complete. About 40% of the spawns were reasonably playable and would be above the village fountain. This includes one of the strangest spawns I've come across, which is a floating grass platform above our first house. I feel like I've never seen anything like this. Minecraft World Generation is something else. My route consisted of raiding the closest house and this double bed house first, making sure to grab 3 logs and 2 pieces of bread along the way. I would then loop back around and craft some planks as I ran towards this house, grabbing my final bed. Tobias grabbed 5 beds instead of 4 in this run, so this is an easy time save. Next, I commandeered this blacksmith before heading to the coastline. I jumped in the water and crafted some essentials as I sank down, before falling into this ruined portal. Contrary to the rest of the seeds we'll see, this ruined portal is not going to be completed with obsidian we've obtained. I need to craft a bucket, iron pickaxe, and flint and steel as if this was an RSG run, and then guide the water stream to allow for an easy construction of the portal. I also need to build up 1 block in order to spawn above a cliff in the nether. After that gauntlet of an overworld, the nether isn't much kinder. Tobias did some weird tech that I did not feel like dealing with just to save 1 wood plank in his inventory. I didn't bother and instead decided to grab this 1 netherrack at the start. With these 2 blocks, I make this tough jump over the ravine to continue my path. This jump is a lot harder than it looks, believe me. The next part is honestly some pretty fun movement with this turnaround drop and hop across the lava. We finish the nether off at this dead end where a portal drops us off into a 12-eye portal room. The end is pretty funky, I'm not gonna lie. Tobias was unfortunate enough to get a diagonal perch in his run, so I was worried I was going to have to pull some special 1-cycle shenanigans to get this done. But luckily, I didn't have to do that until later in this video. Fortunately, although the dragon definitely wanted to perch east-west, it always snapped normally for me. Lastly, all I had to do was grab a couple of endstone, pray for the 1 in 13, and hit the 1 cycle. That last part took a little longer than I'd like to admit because I hadn't speedrun Minecraft in months at this point. However, I did eventually hit it, beating Tobias's time with a solid 258.2. I definitely could have and should have beaten Tobias's time, but I choked all of the perches that were fast enough. This perch isn't even 1 in 13. So I'm ranking these seeds based on two things. First, how annoying the RNG is, and second, how enjoyable the seed is to play. I know those things are really general and vague, but I'll be more specific as I actually rank them. With the Tobias seed, I honestly thought I would despise running it. It's easily the longest, taking just under 2 minutes to enter the end. The overworld is complicated, and the nether terrain is messy and takes forever to run through. But as things became muscle memory, I really started to enjoy it. The height difference in spawn points was quite annoying, and the villagers got on my nerves, but I really enjoyed the unique inventory management and chest loot. I usually don't get to use wood and iron like this in a set seed run, and it was a unique thing to adjust to. The only frustrating RNG elements besides the spawn points were mobs occasionally showing up in the ruin portal, but that wasn't too common. I loved the portal build, and especially loved managing my inventory during the whole portal process. It was quite satisfying. The nether was admittedly not as fun. The stupid jump at the beginning was a pain in the ass, and mobs got in the way quite often. The worst sight to deal with was to round this final corner towards my portal spot just to see a hoglin, skelly, or piglin. Surprisingly though, the movement itself was fun, and the portal build was different from the future seeds as well. I definitely hated the cage spawn in the end, but this seed was a joy to play, all things considered. I wish it wasn't so slow, because I'd love to see this seed picked apart and optimized by a more mature community. The RNG was smack dab in the middle of the pack, and the difficulty was just perfect. Maybe a little more challenging than ideal for long-term attempts, but nothing an experienced player can't handle. I'm putting Tobias seed in a commendable A tier. Our next seed up is an interesting one. It is a sister seed. Sister seeds are worlds that are essentially the same with minimal changes. In this case, we're going to be looking at the sister of Dolphin seed. These two both have the exact same nether and end, but have an overworld with slightly different terrain. In the first seed, there is no hotel, but instead some convenient terrain that leads right over to the portal. In the second seed, we spawn farther west, and we raid the blacksmith first, grabbing our beds in the hotel. There is also some open waters in between us and the portal, where a dolphin has the potential to spawn. Hence the name Dolphin seed. I started off the sister seed by raiding these 3 houses for beds, which was quite the enraging experience because of these villagers that just love to block my path and troll me. This is pretty common in SSG and happened in the Tobias seed, but it was especially frustrating here. After the blacksmith and final bed, I finished off the overworld by repairing the ruin portal, which was a lot easier than the last seed. The nether doesn't have the same mobs problem because I realized that having my render distance on 5 was actually spawning more mobs than usual. I should have noticed this much sooner because it's literally a strategy in random seed runs to turn your render distance down to 5 to spawn more stray blazes. Nevertheless, this nether was a lot easier on 2 chunks of render distance, and while the parkour at the beginning was always a bit funky, it rarely tripped me up too badly. Finally, I have to dig out a hole for the portal in this wall here without using too much of my golden pickaxe. This is difficult since the pickaxe insta-mines netherrack, but I got the hang of it after about an hour of attempts. After a quick dig down, I usually entered the end at about the 140 mark. Definitely not ideal, considering the world record on this seed is almost 20 seconds faster, but we're not gonna worry about that right now. The end is definitely the coolest part of this run. I acquired a lot of netherrack from building the portal, which allowed me to perform Chad Cycle. This is done by essentially constructing the 1 cycle setup high in the air, so that I don't have to wait for the dragon to fly down, saving a few seconds. It was really fun to do and made this seed pretty unique. I eventually ended with a final time of 2:45, which I absolutely despise. It should have been a lot better. I choked to 2:33 and 2:38 from failing to identify which side of the pillar to stand on. While it is possible to do a reverse 4-bed, and I've done it in runs before, I just couldn't manage to do it these times. The eventual run where I hit the 4-bed was an incredibly slow perch and just a poor run overall, so I think I might go back and try to beat this at the end of the video. For now though, let's smack this seed on the tier list. Dolphin seed's sister was way less enjoyable than Tobias seed. The villagers were absolutely maddening, and the nether was frustrating, mainly because of the portal build and my skill issue. This seed just doesn't flow well. The bed collecting route is super condensed and messy, and while the portal build in the overworld is easy, it feels awkward. If I was better at the game and had more practice, maybe I would enjoy it, but for now the end and a little bit of the nether are the only enjoyable parts. As for RNG, however, Dolphinless seed is a breeze. Occasionally, I would have some skeletons at the end of the nether to kill my run, or maybe the villagers would make their houses impenetrable, but most of the failure was kind of on me. Overall, Dolphinless seed is a frustrating but interesting run with little RNG interference. Because of how much I hated running it, I can't quite put it in B tier, but the RNG side bumps it comfortably into C tier. Dolphin seed is literally the exact same as its sister, Dolphinless, with the overworld being the only difference as we've discussed. I 100% prefer this overworld. The movement is a lot more simple and flows beautifully. Definitely the best out of all three so far. The route starts with the blacksmith, followed by grabbing 4 beds in the hotel and swimming to the portal. It was pretty much the same length as its sister, but the hotel was a lot more convenient and pleasant for me to run. It's worth noting that after I choked the 1 cycle for the 3rd time, I kind of got desperate since I needed to keep this video moving, so I started using data packs that would give me perfect RNG. Don't worry, I still played every seed without these data packs at first, but because of my incredible rust and skill issue in this game, I needed them to upload this video before the heat death of the universe. Sorry about being absolutely terrible at the game. The data pack also meant that I couldn't do Chad Cycle because the dragon would perch unnaturally, but let's just pretend I did Chad Cycle again anyways. The final time I got was 226, which definitely could be worse. I've always been bad at this seed, so it was nice to see myself finally make some progress on it. I'm 100% putting Dolphin Seed in a higher tier than its sister. I absolutely love the overworld, and again, the RNG is not bad at all. I still don't enjoy the end of the nether, and it can still be a tad frustrating, so I'm going to put it in a high B tier. Next up, we have the most nostalgic seed for me. Fair warning, this will be a very biased section, and there's a good chance any set seed runners watching may disagree. But I'm just gonna get this out of the way right now. Taiga seed is an easy S tier. I love this seed so much, and I never get bored of coming back to it. It's definitely not perfect, but this world just has so many amazing qualities. To start the run, I ran down this hill to a nearby village to grab beds from these 2 houses. Next, I do some drive-by theft of this blacksmith to get a pickaxe, some food, and obsidian, before grabbing my last 2 beds and leaving out the back of this house. I rearrange my inventory and build my portal adjacent to this ruined one, grabbing a couple more obsidian and a gold pickaxe along the way. I enter the nether a bit slower than Dolphin Seed, but still around the 40-second mark. I jump down this cliff to raid a bastion chest, stealing 9 obsidian before running away towards a wall that I dig through. I do some head hitters as I run through this warped forest until I reach the portal dig spot, which is a lot easier to pull off than the previous seed. This time, unlike Dolphin Seed, I travel directly into the portal room and enter the end at about the low 120s mark. Because of the obsidian scarcity in this seed, I can't do Chad Cycle, so the run ends with just a normal 1 cycle on a nice and flat end island. Alright, so why do I love this so much? Well, one big factor is that this seed got me into Minecraft speedrunning. I mentioned this in an old video, but Entrekus's 2:14 world record is what convinced me to try my hands at MCSR. I had already been watching speedruns consistently for about a month, but Taiga seed is what got me to finally dive into it. I got addicted to this seed instantly. I distinctly remember practicing relentlessly for hours, hoping that one day I could be as good as Entrekus, Magnetic Maybe, and so on. One day, I remember spending 3 hours practicing the same individual house on a practice map. Unfortunately, I never became very good, as my personal best topped out at just a 228. To my credit though, this was actually top 100 at the time and pretty respectable for a 12-year-old. But I just adored this seed, and I still do. It's challenging in the most balanced way possible. You do some unique but consistent movement that flows beautifully and feels rewarding to pull off. If you mess up, it's always your fault, besides some one-off freak accidents. I would honestly say that if you're starting out with SSG, this should be the first seed you play. Not just because it flows so well and has so little RNG, but also because from here on out, the remaining seeds are far, from beginner friendly. Gravel Seed is up next, and boy am I dreading this one. This was the first seed that I saw become the new fastest in real time. I remember hearing how easy and simple it was, about how we were finally going to get the illustrious sub 2 Minecraft speedrun, and also about how only 1/5 of the runs would even have a chance at the Nether. This overworld is incredibly simple and flat. You spawn adjacent to a blacksmith, run through the village for beds, head to a second blacksmith, and build your portal on the wall. To finish it off though, you need to dig a couple blocks into this hillside for gravel. If it doesn't give you the 1 in 10 flint drop on the first try, then you have one more chance to mine it before the overworld becomes too slow, at least for high level runners. Now, 1 in 5 is not the worst odds of all time, especially since we see much worse RNG later on, but it definitely was a pain to get used to after the incredible consistency of past seeds. The Nether is my favorite part of this seed, being simple but featuring lots of satisfying movement, with my favorite portal build so far. The end is a cage spawn, which was annoying at the time, but not a big deal at all. It's also worth mentioning that this seed is played on 1.17, a version where one cycling has slightly delayed timing compared to 1.16.1, which was another factor that made this seed a pain back in 2021. I'm giving this seed a B tier, because I genuinely enjoy the Nether a lot, but the RNG of the gravel docks points for me, and the seed overall is boring and too simplistic. Now, we've saved the best for last. Our last seed that follows the traditional SSG route is Vine Seed. Not only did I want to run this seed for this video, but I really wanted to get a new SSG PB overall. My personal best was 207 from right when Vine Seed was first discovered, which was way too slow for my standards. My goal was sub 2, but I would have been content with a 201 or 202 as well. This seed is the standard SSG overworld at this point. I'm sure you get the gist of it. After grabbing the first blacksmith and all 4 beds, I jumped down this hillside to a ruined portal, using it to enter the Nether and grab the second blacksmith. On good runs, I entered the Nether at around 35.5 seconds or lower. I really wanted a sub 34 overworld, but the closest I got was a 34.1. The Nether is a bit over 30 seconds long and is definitely not as satisfying as Gravel Seeds, but I loved doing this speed bridging portal at the end. It was something I've never had to do before in Set Seed Glitchless. The end is the most unique part of this seed. On this particular end island, it's about 4 seconds faster to not wait for the traditional north-south perch, but a diagonal perch. This means I have to set up the one cycle 1 block off than normal. It took me a long time to figure out which side of the fountain to set up the one cycle, leading me to choke sub 2 many more times than I'd like to admit. But eventually, a very kind person in the SSG Discord clarified it for me. For any of you wanting to run this seed, the side you set up the obsidian on depends on which side of the fountain the dragon is flying over from your perspective. Alright, so did I end up getting a new personal best? Well, I sure did, yes, but you'll see. I'm honestly not very happy with this run, but it got the job done. I bonked on this tree at the beginning, which I maybe did twice in the entire 6 days I spent running this seed, and just forgot how to move inside the final house. However, the Nether split was decent, and I entered the end at 109, which was perfectly acceptable. I got the perch, hit the one cycle, and finished the run in... I'll just let you watch what happened.
No! 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 It's not sub 2. It's not sub 2. Whatever. Whatever, bro. Whatever. I'm freaking done. I'm freaking done. Whatever. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this was a brutal way to end this seed, but at least I got a new personal best. By the way, if you guys want to keep up with my speedruns, I upload them on my second channel much more often than I upload on here. I'll link this run by itself in the description if you'd like to watch it. It was difficult for me to decide where to put Vine Seed. I definitely don't like it as much as Taiga, but boy is this a satisfying run to do well. While there isn't a ton of RNG, there were a lot of dumb things that often trip me up. For instance, in about 15% of end enters, I would miss this 4-block jump onto the end island, or I'd misplace Obsidian, which I rarely do on any other SSG portals. But the movement in Vine Seed is very compact with not a ton of space to work with, which just made it more rewarding to pull off. It also has a lot of unique features, and I never got that bored of the seed itself, just your typical SSG boredom of playing the same seed over and over. I'm putting Vine Seed at the top of B tier. And now we move on to the final boss of 1.16 Set Seed Glitchless. For a long time, it was always theorized that the fastest way to beat the game would be to get Ender Pearls from bartering, and using those to travel through the Nether faster, saving a few seconds. However, with the RNG required and the fact that there just wasn't any seed good enough to make this strategy worth doing, SSG stayed in the traditional format that you've seen me run through in this video. But in 2024, there was a discovery made that would completely flip not only the 1.16 SSG route on its head, but the landscape of Set Seed Glitchless itself. It turns out, you don't need beds and explosives to kill the Ender Dragon quickly. All you need is one bow and arrow. Now, killing the dragon with one arrow, or one shot as it is referred to, is incredibly complicated, and I could make an entire video just on this strategy itself. But for this video, all you need to know is that the more velocity an arrow has, the more damage it will do. Now, normally this is capped, but there is a way to give the arrow more velocity than it is supposed to ever attain. When the dragon hits the player momentarily gains an incredible amount of velocity. If you shoot an arrow at this exact moment, the velocity will get transferred to the arrow, doing absurd amounts of damage in a single hit. In 1.12, this trick is quite difficult, as you need to shoot the arrow perfectly in real time. But in 1.16, the player performs one shot as the dragon is stationary. This gives you a couple of seconds to line up your shot. As for timing the shot itself, that really isn't an issue in 1.16. You'll see players do something called stats abusing, which is clicking on statistics in the pause menu over and over again, advancing the game by one tick every time. Once the player takes damage, one just has to unpause the game, and assuming you do everything correctly, the dragon will die in a single hit. Now, again, this is a gross oversimplification. There are so many details and nuances I had to learn while getting this trick into my arsenal, and it's still quite difficult, albeit a lot easier than 1.12's one-shot. But since all you needed to pull this off was a bow and arrow, it saves a massive amount of time over collecting beds. This seed begins by mining a tree, which is certainly not something you're used to seeing in a set seed run. I craft my wood into planks and use 2 of them to climb up to a ruined portal, which I snag a gold helmet from. I typically enter the Nether at the mid 14 second mark, but a totally clean overworld would be under 14 seconds. I spawn right in front of double triple chest stables, which I steal a gold block from. This bastion is perfect, because it spawns on the edge of a basalt delta biome. This means that magma and lava spawns in the triple chest, which is not only not supposed to happen, but it also means piglins can't hurt me as I raid the chests. Almost every single attempt, these 2 goofballs will run up to the player. I toss 2 gold their way, raid this chest, and then drop the rest of the gold for them. I grab the arrow, string, and obsidian from the other triple chest and come back to the piglins' first round of trades. Now, it's important to note that I obtain a full set of gold armor in this run. This is vital, as the damage I take from throwing pearls coupled with getting hit by the Ender Dragon means I need as much protection as I can get. It's another unique feature I love about this seed. Now, bartering and one-shot actually saves so much time that I can afford to wait a few seconds for a second round of trades, increasing the chance of entering the end. I usually used this downtime to craft my bone meal and sticks, which never presented a problem except for the one run that I finally settled with. But even then, I only lost a split second, and 3 pearl throws later, I arrived at the portal build spot. Now, you might be confused why I mentioned crafting bone meal just a moment ago. That might be the last item you'd expect to need in a run like this. but it turns out that bone mealing a warped fungus grows a warped tree, and the 4-second dimension travel downtime is just long enough to break a log, giving me the crafting table I need. Before playing this seed, I had no idea you could even bone meal a fungus for a tree. This is such a galaxy brain strategy, and using it was so entertaining. After entering the end, you'll see me jump in place, pausing and unpausing for a few seconds until the dragon spawns. The reason I do this is so I know exactly where to aim on the one-shot. I'll link a great video by Circuit explaining this in detail if you'd like to know more. All that's left now is to craft my bow and arrow and pull off the one-shot. I initially was planning on just getting a data pack run I was satisfied with for this seed, which ended up being a 148. However, to give the seed a fair rating, I played the seed for about an hour without the data pack. And to my surprise, I actually got not only an endenter, but a perch. I was not mentally prepared for this to happen whatsoever, and unfortunately didn't do enough damage to kill the dragon. See, even though the position you need to aim isn't super precise, you only have 5 seconds to go from underneath the dragon to aiming in the correct spot, and I just overshot the correct spot in the limited time I had. This resulted in me choking a 148, which would have been an incredible time for my standards and a perfect way to end this video. But afterwards, I adopted a sort of gambler's mentality. If I got lucky enough once, why can't I do it again? While you'd think this would just result in misery and no results, it seemed to do the opposite. The next day I got a perch again, and I even hit the one-shot this time. But I took my hand off the spacebar in excitement, which caused me to fail the launch cancel. Canceling the launch to the moon the dragon gives you is incredibly simple, and should be impossible to mess up, and I still managed to, choking a 152. I was upset, but too deep into this to give up. And for the next 2 days, I kept getting incredible perch luck, choking 4 more times for various reasons. It's incredibly embarrassing, and all I could do was pretend like it didn't happen. But finally, on the morning of February 1st, I managed to break through and snagged myself a 155.8. This wasn't a good run at all, and I'm capable of better, but it's a run I can be proud of. But more importantly, it allowed me to quit procrastinating on this video. Barbecue Seed is easily the hardest to rank of all. It's so radically different from every other, and was definitely frustrating to run with the occasional dry spells I would get with ender pearls. I almost lost my mind when I went 45 minutes straight with clean gameplay just to not get a single pearl trade. And even besides pearls and the perch, there were multiple things that could go wrong. But even with all that, I learned a new strategy that I love. I greatly sharpened my chest looting skills and overall mechanics, and I achieved my first sub-2 Minecraft speedrun with this incredible seed. The movement itself isn't particularly challenging like Taiga could be, but it's not boring and simple like Gravel Seed. I can't put this seed in S tier due to the RNG, but it fits snugly into A tier for sure. Also, can I just point out that there's a fortress like 7 chunks from the Bastion? This seed is a fever dream. Wow, what a trip, huh? This video was way longer than I expected it to be, but I believe that that's just a testament to how much I love this category. It also shows that despite how simple and repetitive Set Seed Glitchless can seem to outsiders, it actually features a beautiful amount of variety and nuance. It's been years since I've dived into it, and it was so much fun. As I revised the script for this video, I realized that my rankings are kind of inconsistent and contradict each other. But then again, it's my video, and I can do what I want. I hope you liked my ranking, and I'd love for you to tell me your thoughts on these seeds in the comments. This video took forever to make, so I'd love it if you subscribed. Thank you so much for watching to the end, and as always, have a good one.